As seen in Forbes, Huffington Post, Mind Valley, and many other media outlets, Simone Milasas is an innovative business leader, best-selling author, and global speaker. Simone's capacity for wealth creation catapulted her from 187K in debt to being a multi-millionaire with a thriving and diversified portfolio. Simone's approach to business for the past 30 years cannot be found inside a textbook. She's been instrumental in growing access consciousness to over 176 countries across the globe. As the founder of Joy of Business, a program that mentors entrepreneurs globally to create greater wealth, success, happiness, and well being. And before we hop into the podcast, a quick word from our sponsor, Deep Wealth and the Deep Wealth Mastery Program. We have William, a graduate of Deep Wealth Mastery, and he says, I didn't have the time for Deep Wealth Mastery, but I made the time and I'm glad I did. What I learned goes far beyond any other executive program or coach I've ever experienced. Or how about Bruce? Bruce says, before Deep Wealth Mastery, the challenge I had with most business programs, coaches, or books was that they were one-dimensional. Through Deep Wealth Mastery, I'm part of a richer community of other successful business owners. The ideas shared forever changed the trajectory of the business, and best of all, the experience was fun. And we'll round things out with Stacy. Stacy said, I wish I had access to the Deep Wealth Mastery before my liquidity event, as it would have been extremely helpful. Deep Wealth Mastery exceeded my expectations in terms of content and quality. And you know what, my Deep Wealth Nation, why they're saying this is because Deep Wealth Mastery, it's the only system based on a 9-figure deal. That was my deal. And as you know, I said no to a 7-figure offer, and I created a system that we now call Deep Wealth Mastery that helped myself and my business partners welcome from a different buyer, a different offer, a 9-figure exit. So if you're interested in growing your profits, preparing for a future liquidity event, if that's 2 years away or 20 years away, and you want to optimize your post-exit life, Deep Wealth Mastery is for you. Please email success@deepwealth.com. Again, that's success, SUCCESS, at deepwealth.com. We'll send you all the information about Deep Wealth Mastery, otherwise known as Scale for Ultimate Sale. That's where you want to be. You want to be with other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders just like you who are looking to create market disruptions, and they want to lock in their financial freedom and have success and fulfillment. That's the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program. It has your name on it. All you need to do is take the next step. Send an email to success@deepwealth.com. Welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. Well, Deep Wealth Nation, you heard it in the official introduction. We have a fellow entrepreneur in the house, but not just an entrepreneur, an author, a thought leader, a global thought leader, someone who's traversing the globe, making a difference, paying it forward. I'll put a plug in it right there. Simone, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us. And I'm curious because there's always a story behind the story. So Simone, what's your story? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Hi, Jeffrey. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, there is a story behind the story. And I think that's an interesting thing to start with too, because you're just living your life. You're just like, you keep choosing and keep choosing. And then I know when I start talking about things, people are, oh, wow, you did that. I'm in Opatia, Croatia at the moment. I was just telling you. And I'm here on my own for about a week. And someone said to me yesterday, you've totally surprised me how you've just embraced being there and you've went and hired a car, you've gone hiking, you've done everything on your own. And I said, I'm a worldwide traveler. I've been doing that for over 30 years, just traveling the world and discovering what is. I would say my first little ping is when I was about 16 years of age and everyone started talking about what subjects you have to study at school because you have to choose what you're going to do when you leave school. And I found that really hard to have a look at. I had no idea. If I looked at it, honestly, I kept saying, I want to travel the world and own my own business. And people were like, that's too flippant. It's not decisive enough. It's not blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but I have no idea. I don't know what topics I want to study because I want to see the world and I want to have my own business. So I sort of kept to my guns with that. And people would ask me, well, what sort of business do you want to have? Thinking that should lead me down the topics that I'm supposed to study or university, college, etc. And I was like, I don't know. And I'm not so sure I actually have a point of view at the moment. What I see and what I guess gained awareness from my father, who was a chartered accountant, but he was an entrepreneur very much as well, is what I saw with business is you can change the world.
Sure.
I saw with business, it's so malleable. By what you get out there into the world, whether it's a product, a service, or whatever that is, you invite people to a different possibility. So I went with that. I had that energy. And then for me, I desired to see the world, but not just monuments and galleries and all of that, which is fine too. I wanted to
Hmm.
explore how people lived. So pretty much as soon as I could, I left and I went to America. I spent 3 months in America and then I went to Europe. I lived in London. I lived in Austria in a small town, learning German and cooking and cleaning. And I worked in the Greek islands and I did many different things. And I lived off pretty much no money, no money, but I explored the world. And whilst I was doing that, part of what gave me, I guess, freedom and a look into the future was I used to write a lot. So I
Hmm.
would write down everything. And everyone I met, I was so inspired by different people, and everyone I met, or even a movie I was watching, I started to write down different things on a different topic. And what eventuated from that was I started a business, many other things, but I started a business called Good Vibes for You. And the
Hmm.
whole idea was, I thought, to empower people to know that they have a different choice, that there's a different possibility. And so I started off designing t-shirts and stickers and magnets. And I had some famous quotes on there, like Gandhi of "Be the change you want to see in the world." But there's one, I remember I met this Israeli guy and I was in Nepal and I was chatting to him and I was really frustrated about something. And he looked at me and he went, "You guys are crazy." He said, "Look," he said, "it's simple." And I said, what's simple?" And he said, "Life." And I went, "Okay, what do you mean?" And he said, "If you feel good, you are good. If you feel bad, change it." So that was one of my t-shirts because I was like, that's brilliant. So I wrote it down. So I created pages and pages of inspiring conversations that I'd had with people all around the world. And so I started that business, Good Vibes for You. I ended up working in the music industry and doing merchandise for musicians and everything. But simultaneously, I also met Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access Consciousness. And I went to hear him talk one night, and I just sat in the audience, and it was on relationships. And at that time, I really was so not interested in relationship. For me, that feels annoying to have a relationship. I need to go out and change the world. And relationship felt like it was, I've got to get married and have kids and do this. Nothing wrong with that. But wasn't what I was asking for. But he was talking about relationships, and I wanted to hear him talk. So I went to hear him talk, and sitting there, I was like, oh my goodness, this guy's talking about everything that I want to create, like just how to be you. And he was so irreverent and he swore. And one thing he said was, "Don't trust me, trust you." And I was like, God, that's so refreshing to hear someone say that, not "you must do what I'm saying, otherwise you're wrong." He was like, "No, you've got to trust yourself." And I walked out of there going, I need to know more about this. So I ended up going to some more seminars that Access Consciousness had. And then I had Good Vibes for You and I had Access Consciousness going at the same time. And eventually I let Good Vibes for You go. And for the last 24 years, I've been a major speaker and running the seminars of Access Consciousness all around the world. We were in 4 countries and now we're in 180 countries. And it just keeps getting better and greater and more fun and easier and just absolutely thrilling.
What a story. And Simone, you're very modest because I know when you first met Gary, right away he shared something with you, not just about the good vibes, but he picked up on something of how you reacted when he hugged you. And he said, "Geez, my goodness, Simone, you've got to learn how to receive." What was going on with that? Because so many of us are like that. We're
Yeah.
so trained or we're just programmed, let's give, but forget about me. Don't worry about me. And as Gary was saying, as you alluded to, what's in our thoughts becomes our outer world, how we manifest that. So, what was going
Yeah.
on when you said, "Hey, Simone, you really got to learn how to receive"?
You're good, Jeffrey. So I was at a Mind, Body, and Spirit festival in Sydney. So for starters, it's not a cheap festival to go have your business at. So I'd spent all this money and I knew, okay, I've got to make X amount of money per day to break even and then make a profit and doing all of that sort of business mathematical calculation as well. And I just had a really good friend of mine who had been to Bali surfing and she got, now don't get scared to go to Bali because I've never heard of this since, but she got bitten by a mosquito and died within 3 days. And I was just so angry and so devastated. And you know that movie, Four Weddings and a Funeral, where the
Sure.
guy says, I want the dogs to stop barking and the clocks to stop ticking. That's what I was like. And
Hmm.
everyone was moving around me. And I just wanted to yell out and just be like, stop. My friend is dead and I'm still doing this. Nothing made sense to me whatsoever. And I had heard of Access Consciousness. I had not met Gary yet, but I knew of him. And he walked around the corner with a mutual friend of ours, and I got introduced to him. And that's when he said hello, and he'd heard of me as well. And he hugged me. And I did that thing where you hug someone and then you pull back. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? He said, if you were open to receiving, he said, you'd have a lot more in life. And I looked at him and thought, you have no idea what's going on in my life. This crazy American guy is whatever, and had all my points of view. And I asked him, I said, what do you mean? And well, if you're open to receiving, you'd be happier. Your business would be more successful. You'd sell more products. Your friendships would be greater. Like, and he rattled off about 6 or 7 things. And I looked at him and thought, what the hell do you mean? And I just knew that I had to keep going because I was so busy. And I was like, okay, thank you. Basically in my head, thank you, crazy man. And then that night I was staying at a friend's house because I didn't live in Sydney, and I was really tired and I just couldn't sleep. And all I could think about was Gary Douglas saying to me, you'd have a lot more in life if you were open to receiving. And I woke up in the morning and was day one of this festival, and I walked over, or actually I'm going to say I stomped over to the Access Consciousness stand, and Gary was there, and I had my hands on my hips. Like, I was petulant. I was angry at the world. And he looked at me, he was like, good morning. And I was like, is it? I said, I haven't slept all night. And he looked at me like, okay, what's up? I said, I cannot stop thinking about what you said to me. And he was like, okay, tell me. And I said, you told me that I would be a lot better in life if I was open to receiving. And he looked at me and he said, yeah. And I went, Gary, I didn't think I was allowed to receive. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, I've lived my whole life looking at what I can give, not what I can receive. And somewhere in my world, I had decided that that was the most terrible, awful, wrong thing that a being on this planet could do, is to receive. And I was so confused. And he looked at me and he said, hey, do you want to go for a walk outside? And I was like, no, I've got my business. I'm busy. I mean, no receiving in that, right? And then I went, yes, no, yes. And I said it like 5 or 6 times. And I eventually went, okay. And I went outside with him. I don't actually remember exactly what he said to me, but I remember he was so calm and so relaxed. And he had his hand really gently, like just on my lower back. And he was asking me some questions, and he was empowering and just kind, like just this kind being. I walked away. After we chatted, I stood up and he goes, there's 2 doors, and one door was really close to where my stand was and the other door was close to where his was. And he said to me, which way are you going? And I looked at him and I went, I'm going with you. I'll never forget that, because I was just like, this is the energy that I'm interested in. And I would say the whole receiving topic has been huge for me, still is, still now. Every day I'll ask, what can I receive today that I wasn't willing to receive yesterday? Because I just don't think that we're taught to receive, Jeffrey. And if we do allow ourselves to receive, that's when the magic shows up. That's when more revenue streams show up. That's when the connections show up. That's when so much shows up beyond what you can literally imagine.
And I'm curious, Simona, as you're sharing that, because I know a big part of your journey, you were in debt for a while, close to $200,000. I'm rounding up a little bit. How much of being in debt was you not willing to receive? As you look back on that now, it probably felt like the worst thing that could happen to you. Looking back, I'm sure you're saying, actually, it was probably one of the better things that happened to me.
Oh,
So what was going on with that?
yeah, I've had a friend of mine say to me, all the stuff that you choose, that those moments that you're in like, oh, what's going on, or dire straits, or you think your world is falling apart. She goes, it's good copy. It's good for a book. So, and I wrote, the second book I wrote was called How to Get Out of Debt Joyfully. And yeah, I definitely, that had a lot to do with receiving. It had to do with 2 things, is what I would say if I had to summarize it. Is one is not receiving. And even a classic example is when I made the demand of myself. You can't demand of anyone else, you can demand of yourself. And I requested of the universe to contribute to me to change my financial reality. One of the things I did do was I spoke to my father, and my father, he passed away about 12 years ago, was such a kind, loving, caring man who was always empowering me and always trying to gift me. And I was like, no, I did that horrible, petulant teenager thing. I don't need your money. I can do this on my own. Like that poor man, all he wanted to do was gift his daughter something. And I was refusing for so long. And one of the things, when I finally realized how in debt I was, he actually wrote me a check for $50,000. And
Wow.
yeah, so that was a big chunk to just
Hmm.
knock off it. But I received it. And Jeffrey, I remember sitting in his office when he wrote me this check for $50,000. And I watched his whole body just relax. And I realized, gosh, I have not been kind to him for not
Hmm.
willing to receive from him. He's my father. He loves me. He adores me. And I've been refusing to receive from him. And I watched the energy between myself and him change when I received. And it so wasn't about the money. I mean, the money was great. $50,000 really took a chunk out of the debt. And yet there was a different communion and relationship that showed up with my father and I since I started to receive from him. And funnily enough, even just before he died, he said to me, Simone, you taught me how to hug. He said, you taught
Huh.
me how to receive a hug. And I did, because he's got a whole story himself, escaping during World War II and not having that sort of, I guess, tenderness available. And I would just hug him and hold on to him and be so grateful for him. So there's that. And then the second piece, I know I created debt, and this is so common in all the classes or the sessions I do. This comes out in so many people is I see a lot of people use no money as a source of creation. So as a motivation. And I was definitely doing that. I mean, at one stage, rent's due on Thursday. So on Wednesday, I'd get my hustle on and then
Hmm.
I'd make rent. And you'd be like, phew, and you're so proud of yourself. You did it at the last minute. And I remember sitting in my office one day asking myself questions, going, well, Simone, what would you choose and what would you create if you actually had money in the bank account? And I practiced doing this and going, if you had $100,000 in the bank account, would you still be doing what you're doing? Because I wanted to give myself the freedom to choose and not be doing work from the necessity of it. I wanted to be choosing it. So I really played with this tool and then asked myself, well, what would it be like if we actually had money? So I made that demand of myself, like I said, and I kept using these access consciousness tools, and I did change my financial situation. And it only took me about 2 years. Admittedly, Dad giving me a check for 50,000 was a great contribution to that. But then I was like, I'm going to find out what it's like to actually have money, because I knew what it was like to not have money. I knew what it was like to struggle. And so many people like that, they can align and agree with everybody else and they can complain and do all of that. But what's it like to actually have money? So I was like, I'm going to find out about that. And here I am now, and I have money.
Interesting. So, I'm curious what you would say to this, that money in and of itself, for so many people, they say, yes, when I get money, it's if when I get money, then I'll be happy. And I like to say, well, money is great. It's like a lubricant. It can lubricate life. It can make it smoother, take away some of the friction. It's not going to give you that internal joy or being grateful or joyfulness. It's got to come from within. That money is nice in and of itself, but it's not going to solve all the problems. It's not going to have you wake up feeling happy. You can have lots of zeros in the bank or no zeros in the bank and still not feel happy. And oh my goodness, life isn't so great and all those other things. Would you agree with that? Not agree with that? Where are you on that?
Oh, I 1 billion% agree with that. And I get, Jeffrey, you get that when you get it,
Mm-hmm.
because I do. I mean, again, I would work with a lot of people who go, oh, if, as you said, once I have this, if I have this, then I can be happy. And it's no, it doesn't work like that. You get to wake up and you get to choose happy. It doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank account. Look, it makes your life way easier. I can remember the days struggling, absolutely struggling to get an economy ticket from Brisbane to LA so I could go and see Gary and Dane and do all of that. And I didn't have the money for a hotel. So I slept on people's lounge room floors. I did that and I couldn't go to a restaurant. It was a struggle and I did it. And now I'm staying in this beautiful 3-bedroom apartment on my own in Opatija, Croatia. And then I'm going to Sardinia for a week and I've got work all over Europe and I'm traveling either first class, business class. I even traveled on a jet down to Rome. It's like money makes your life easier in the way of I don't stress about the things that I went and had this fabulous glass of champagne and this really beautiful food in this restaurant on the water a couple of nights ago. Years ago, I would have gone, well, how much is their champagne? How much is their thing?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I go to the restaurant across the road because it's not going to cost as much because it doesn't have the water view? Like I've been there, I've done that. But now I don't have to think about it. I went, oh, this restaurant, this looks great. And I just sat down. I didn't look at what the prices are because I know I have the money to pay for it. It's okay. So I think it relaxes you in a certain way, but it definitely doesn't make you happy. And I'm also going to say, someone said to me, was commenting the other day about rich people's problems. And I was like, it's true. There's a whole other ball game that shows up when you actually have money that you maybe then try and avoid money because you don't want to deal with that. If you've got real estate investments or something, then you're dealing with tenants, or there's so many things in life that you have to deal with and you have to handle. And it's your state of mind that creates how you handle them. It's not the amount of money that you have in the bank account. I fully believe that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I've been on both sides of it. And after my liquidity event, as Deep Wealth Nation knows, next morning woke up, completely different story financially, yet Jeffrey was still the same person, the same hopes, the same fears, the same feelings. Sure, it was nice to have, but I don't want to say it's artificial. I just found that it's external. And all the zeros in the bank account cannot fill up a void that we may have inside of us. We really need to do the inner work with that. And let me ask you, because you are traveling the world, meeting with founders, business owners, entrepreneurs, different countries, different cultures. Usually the glass is half full for us, but let's flip that. The glass is half empty for just a moment. Where are you seeing, Simone? And maybe it's the Pareto's law or principle, the 80-20 rule. Are there 20% of common, I'll call them issues, I like to really call them opportunities, that are getting people off track that you're seeing that we're just not getting it as a community that you can share with us?
I'd say the answer is yes. And I would say, God, it differs each country and each
Mm-hmm.
place. Because, I mean, if I look at, I've been to the Middle East this year, and I mean, the majority of the Middle East, money is not an issue,
Mm-hmm.
but family and relationship is an issue. And also, I mean, if I look at all the people I work with in Saudi, and I think it's been 8 or 9 years that women are allowed to drive. And also, since the new prince came in, it's their choice to not wear the hijab and
Mm-hmm.
etc. So there's a whole lot of cultural things that they deal with, and a lot of them want to fight it. And I'm like, well, what if you weren't fighting? I'm a great believer in, you chose this body, you chose to be here on this planet at this time. So what did you choose it for? So if you're choosing to be born here in this culture, in this religion, what if you weren't fighting it? What if you embraced it? And it's, what are you choosing it for? And I think that's with everywhere, no matter where you're born. Then if you come here, like I'm in Croatia, and not so much now, but I remember we used to come to Croatia and Serbia and Slovenia and all those countries that have been in war, and war within, they remember it. Gosh, they're seeking something different. They're like reaching out, just going, what have you got? They're like sponges. They know there's something different. They don't want to live in the dismal fight sort of thing, and the grandparents reminding them of this, and they desire something different. So they're really seeking something different. And yet when I go home in Australia, I think we're some of the laziest people in the world, because they're like, I mean, some of the sayings in Australia is like, beautiful one day, perfect the next. Oh, she'll be right, mate. No worries. And it's true. It's sun's out, surf's up. If you want, you can go on the dole and get paid by the government to just go surfing. There's a lot of, I guess, opportunities, possibilities there. So what I find is people don't seek so much for greater. Now, I think there's a whole theme in that too. I really like my life. I think it's great. I like what I'm choosing. I'm very happy. Yet, Jeffrey, I'm always asking every day, is this enough for me? Am I choosing to be as great as I could be? And I think that's where the courage lies as well. And I think, say, a country like Australia, people need to embrace that and go, okay, maybe I have it great here, but is it good enough for me? What if I actually reached for more? Because each and every single one of us has the possibility to choose something that can change the trajectory of how we be here on the planet. And I think we need to start looking at the choices we make and the action that we take, because it does make a difference. So, yeah, I think the whole world is very different in how they perceive each other and perceive themselves and the possibilities.
Simone, you've said it a few times now, and I know on your podcast, choice, change, and action. And by the way, for our listeners, Deep Wealth Nation, go to the show notes, it's all there. And also in the books, you've done a number of books, getting out of debt joyfully being one of them. There's a theme that you're having. Okay, it's a choice for me I can choose to be miserable or happy or something in between. There's also a lot of joy in the books that you've written. Joy of business, getting out of debt joyfully. You have get happy and stay there. So there's a theme with that. So let's flip it now. Glass is half full. What should we be doing as not just entrepreneurs, but people in general with these choices? Because our choices, small daily actions, rituals, become our habits. And I'm going to say those habits really create the life around us. That's what we're manifesting. So, what kind of choices would you be sharing with us that we should be thinking that perhaps either we're not thinking or we're not doing or something else in between? What does that look like and sound like for you?
Okay, I would say take yourself outside of your comfort zone. I ended up, like I've mentioned, I'm in Korea at the moment, and I ended up here. I wasn't meant to be here. I was meant to still be in Rome and doing a class, and we ended up rescheduling it. So I went, okay, I'm going to go to Croatia early. So I'm here for a week on my own. I've never been here to Apache, never been here. But I got here, hired an apartment, hired a car. I looked and I went, it's got sea, it's got mountains. And Jeffrey, I don't have anyone here at the moment that I can go, hey, let's go grab dinner or let's go hiking or anything. So I've had to be with myself. I was just saying to someone I work with today, I'm going to make sure I do this at least twice a year. I take 5 or 6 days where I go somewhere I haven't been and take myself out of my comfort zone and be in question, because that's what I've really noticed I've had to do. I like hiking, but I know a lot of places to hike. Here I don't.
Mhm.
And I went hiking at this place yesterday, beautiful mountain, and I'm hiking and I'm on my own, which again is when you're hiking on your own. I was sort of going, should I have told someone where I was going? You have those moments. And I swear to God, I was like, man, earth fairies all around me. I could just feel the vibration of the nature and everything there. It was so incredible. And by the time I got down the bottom and I looked at these signs, and it was saying that it's been inhabited up to 14,000 years, they say. And they said this area was known for fairies. And I was
Hmm.
like, that's funny. And I was like, I know, because they were hiking with me. I could perceive this energy. You don't become complacent when you're in somewhere that's actually brand new. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
driving on the other side of the road, on the other side of the car at the moment, which is always interesting doing that too, because you've got to be so present and you've got to be in question. And I think when that glass is half full, what if we reached out and did something or chose something that was outside of our comfort zone that could add to our life and increase the possibilities? So, and by that, you've got to be in question. It's like, okay, so what is this? Like, where can I go? Who else can I meet? You start engaging with different people. And for me, I look at business and I look at all of it as we are a part of this ecosystem. We are not just here watching and observing it. We are a major player here. And if we are a part of this ecosystem, then what part of it have you not explored or have you been avoiding that could actually contribute more to you?
So interesting. And what's also interesting, Simone, when you first began, we at Deep Wealth, we call it the golden handcuffs. When we are speaking with an entrepreneur, does the business run without you? There's a lot of hemming and hawing and all kinds of stories. The true answer, the short answer is no, it really doesn't. Even if they have a leadership team, all the decisions are still going through them. You were there, it sounds like you've transcended that. And I use the word transcend very deliberately on that. You don't have the golden handcuffs. And it's probably one of the biggest hiccups with business owners. They are the business is them. They don't really have a life. They got into business to have a life, to have a lifestyle. It's not what they want. So, what was it that you did to unshackle yourself, that you have the freedom, you have the joy of doing what you want to do when you want to do it, and the business is still there? Believe it or not, you're going to take a week off here, another week off there, maybe even more in the future. You're going to come back to the business is even better than it was before. What were some of the things that you did to unshackle yourself?
Okay, so one tool that I learned, and I learned this from Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, really early on. This was one of the moments that I was struggling to get to America, and I flew to San Francisco to go to this business class that he was doing. And I sat in the front row and I looked at him and he said, how many of you have a business when nobody can do the business as well as you? Put my hand up. And he went, okay, so are you the source of the business? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you like controlling it? And I was like, yeah. And I could see where this was going. And he said, so what about your staff? And I was like, none of them can do it as well as me. And he said, so if you have that point of view, who are you hiring? And I realized at that moment I was hiring all these staff who could not do the business as well as me. So from that moment, I went home and I started asking for staff to show up who were better than me, who were greater than me, like greater at organizing or accounts or calling people or all these different aspects. And it created so much freedom in my world because if I'm empowering them to be as great as they can be, now, here's the piece that I think comes across to a lot of people, and myself included. Well, I went, well, what will I do? And I went, well, what if it's not about what I do? What if it's what I can be? And what I noticed is every single time this shows up, and it's actually showing up right now in my business as well, is it's you have this energy of becoming useless, and none of us want to be useless. But if you're useless, look at it. Are you just going to sit back and watch Netflix? Nothing wrong with watching a show on Netflix, right? Are you just going to sit back on the couch and do nothing? Or are you going to come up with something different and something greater? And that's what I notice occurs. If I start hiring people who are better and greater than me and more enthused about certain areas than me, then I become useless and then I actually create more. And I mean, right now, like I said, I'm in Croatia, but before you, it's like we call them huddles. Instead of meetings, we have a huddle. And we just had a huddle. There was four of us on the team that sort of got together. And what I most of the time, because I mean, two of the guys on there were talking tech stuff. And I was like, guys, you're going to lose me. You'll lose me on tech. And I was like, hey, what would you like to choose? And they were like, this and this. And I went, great, go for it. So I have learned to trust the people that I work with and their capacities and what they're aware of. I've learned that I hire people for their awareness, not so that they can come to me with a whole bunch of choices and I have to be the one that chooses. I would like them to choose. It makes my life easier and it actually expands the business.
Interesting, Simone. I can just picture in the Deep Wealth Nation, there's a listener right now who's saying, okay, Jeffrey, Simone, I respect your stories, what you've each done. I got to tell you, though, you're losing me here because you're talking about the universe. You're talking about mindset. You're talking about all these things which don't show up in a spreadsheet, in a complicated formula. And they're thinking, if it's not in a complicated formula, if it's not in a spreadsheet, it just doesn't exist. This is just woo stuff. It's out there. And you're kind of losing me on that. So, to that listener, what would you say of what you're calling the universe? Some people call it God, other people call it perhaps the field or quantum physics, whatever the case may be with that. What would you say to that listener who, I'll say, is doubtful or is questioning the whole legitimacy of, don't tell me, Simone, that your mindset is what got you to the next level. That's what unshackled you from your business. That's what brought the financial freedom. Don't tell me it was the mindset. It's got to be something else. What would you say to that listener?
I love numbers as well. I mean, become a bit of a joke because I'm like, I love a Google Doc and I love doing formulas and I love looking at numbers. Look, my dad, a very long time ago, as I mentioned, he was a chartered accountant. And for me, business was about creation. And I kept saying, it's about creation, it's about creation. And he drew me this graph once and he said, look, and he drew me all these different pies in the graph. And the financial one was rather large. And I looked at him and went, that's not my graph. My graph is mainly creation. And he pointed at the financial stuff and he said, Simone, if you're not aware of the finances, you can't have everything else. And I knew at that moment that he was correct. And I mean, he was old school, showing my age here now. When I started doing some part-time work for him, bookkeeping, the big ledgers that they used to have, and you'd get the receipts and you'd have to write them out and then cross out and then tie them up with a big pink bow. That was my dad. That was a part-time job I had during school, was learning how to do bookwork. So he was very adamant that you have to learn about the numbers. You have to read your profit and loss. You have to know how to set yourself, I would say set yourself a budget. But here's the thing, Jeffrey, that I don't believe so much in. Be aware of the numbers, but don't let that be the sole reason why you choose something. There has definitely been projects that I've done where I've either broken even or I've lost money. Wow, have I gained awareness, and it has contributed to a future. So I will not choose based on numbers, but I am aware of the numbers and I love looking at them and I love working that out and seeing how to increase that. And looking at one of the questions I always ask, because my staff is, there's so many of them come up with very creative ideas. What revenue stream can support that? Because they come up with creative ideas, but I'm like, but what revenue stream is going to support it? Let's come up with a revenue stream that supports that idea. And then what revenue stream can support that? And how does this all work? And for me, that's also part of that ecosystem. And if you are listening and you are one of those people who are going, what? They're talking about the universe again, or as you said, quantum physics. My suggestion is go even educate yourself on how quantum physics works, like
Hmm.
quantum entanglements. If you look at quantum entanglements and you look at an electron and a proton, they are connected. If they've been connected, they are connected forever across the world, across the universe, across the solar system. There is a much bigger, not just world, there's a much bigger universe available to us. And if we access that energy and the numbers, oof, what else is possible?
So interesting, really, what you've done. And again, you can say, Jeffrey, on base, off base. What I'm hearing you say is you can't put the financials off to the side. All the success in the world is great. If you're not sure of what's going on, though, it's likely other people will come in and take advantage of that and all for nothing. Be aware of the financials. It does not have to be the driving force. You can be aware of it, but focus on some other areas that we're speaking about. And what's interesting, Simone, I've been reflecting as you've been talking, and I'm looking to our deep wealth 9 step roadmap. This is what we have in our 90-day deep wealth mastery system, scale for ultimate sale. And so, step one, big picture. You've alluded to, well, I'm finding some problems out there. I'm helping people solve those problems, which leads nicely to step two, X factors. Just a fancy way of saying, where is your business unique? And now for you, you have a leadership team that's world class. That puts them in a category of its own. You have a culture that also is unique to you. Money can buy many things, it can't buy the culture of a business. And so you have a culture going. So you're doing all those things there that really help you solve those problems. I'm also going to go to step five, winning mindset, which really sounds like it's at the heart of what you're doing, probably in your culture as well. And that winning mindset starts with you. Be the change that you want to see in other people, attracting people into the business, onto the team, into that culture that also have a mindset that together, collectively, you can do more than what one person on his or her own can do. And you're melding that all together to get to some terrific results, growing the community, growing the profits, the revenue, making a change out there. How am I doing with that?
That's wonderful. That's a really good summary. Yeah. I guess feel proud, Jeffrey, of what I have created and what I'm involved in. So thank you.
Absolutely. And as we're talking about the Simone, I'm a listener saying, okay, you know what? I'm not quite sure if I'm buying everything that Simone is saying, but she does have my interest. I like what I'm hearing. I'm going to use another F word, feels. It feels interesting. It feels right. So someone shows up, they want to go into one of your programs or into the coaching or go through one of your processes that you're doing. What does that look like, Simone, in terms of how long does it take? And I know everyone's different with my question. You can say, well, Jeffrey, everyone's different and the journey is different. But generally speaking, what does that journey look like? What can I expect timing wise? What does that look like? Would love to hear some more of that.
Look, there's a multiplicity of choices because I facilitate many different classes, from one called Business Done Different, that's 4 hours a day over 3 days, one called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And then there's a lot of access consciousness classes. Like we do a lot of hands-on body work as well. Like this weekend, I've got, it's called an advanced body class. There's
Mm-hmm.
body processes, which are phenomenal, because don't forget about your body.
Mm.
You can be rushing around, but all the money in the bank account is not going to do any good if you don't have your health and your body. Okay. Just a little caveat there. So we do body processes. There's like a bars class, foundation. So I do a lot of the more advanced access classes. So, but
Mm-hmm.
there's facilitators all over the world. As I mentioned, we're in 180 countries. There's practitioners everywhere. You can have private sessions. You can go to, I've got a call this week that's just 1 hour long. I've
Mm.
got a membership that's a monthly membership, and it's crazy price. It's 28 US dollars. And you get 2 calls with me a month. It's called the Profit Club. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not just about money and business and wealth. It's about life, because
Mm-hmm.
it's about everything. And we've got over 500 members in that, and we've got a bunch of different languages in it as well, which is increasing. So there's things, yeah, my website, SimoneMilasas.com, which I'm sure you'll have in the show notes, etc., has all the list of different classes that I do. But I'm going to say it's not just me. It's also, if you can find an access consciousness facilitator and go do something with them too, wherever you are in the world, I would highly recommend that as well. There's books. There's so many books. I know, and on Audible as well, because I don't know about you, but I love having a book. Like I
Yes.
actually like
Yes.
old school, having a book and opening the pages.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find I've got to admit it, I do find I mostly listen to Audible, like when I'm driving or hiking or something like that.
So interesting. So really what I'm hearing you say is for the listeners, Deep Wealth Nation, go to the show notes, click on the different links, see what resonates with you.
Yeah.
And based on that, go through the system. What I love about this, Simone, it's so interesting as entrepreneurs, and again, don't kick me under the table or throw the eggs and tomatoes at me. I'm going to say we can be so smart in so many areas. And at the same time, we're so dumb. And what I mean by that is we're just doing it the hard way or even not doing it at all. Some entrepreneurs, they will spend more time planning a vacation than they will, well, how am I going to better myself as a leader? How am I going to get some help? Or they'll hire a fitness trainer. And listen, at Deep Wealth, we're all about both the business and the personal, extracting your deep wealth. And on the personal side, as you shared earlier, our health is our first wealth. And that's terrific if you have someone helping you on the fitness side and achieving your goals, getting to the next step of health. What I'm also hearing you say, and I agree, and we're all about this here at Deep Wealth as well, get a business coach. Have someone help you. Why spend the time fumbling around, making the mistakes, spending that time and money that could be put to better uses? Get a coach. You've already done this. This is not theory. It's not in the textbooks. This is from the trenches. It works. You can help people get to their goals a whole lot quicker. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I see a lot of people going to, oh, but I can do it myself, or I can do this. I love business. And as you mentioned, the first book I wrote was called Joy of Business. I don't know everything about business, but I educate myself all the time. And because I travel, I mean, I know it sounds, now I'm going into maybe the boring category or the exciting category. I'm not sure. I love learning about tax systems around the world because I think it's so interesting about how different places do different taxation and how it works. So I do not assume I know everything. So the first thing I do, and I would highly recommend this as well, is if you find someone who's more successful than you in your tax jurisdiction, ask if you can take them out to dinner or take them out to lunch or something and say, hey, can I just pick your brain and ask you some questions? Because that's what I did with a couple from Melbourne. They were more successful for me at the time. And I kept taking them out to dinner and asking them questions. And I eventually had a meeting with their accountant. And now, well, Steve was saying to me, you overtook us, right? And I've got his accountant as my accountant and everything. But I kept asking questions. And I think having a business coach is where asking you a question. Because if you're only heading in that direction that you know, and you may be brilliant at certain areas, but having somebody ask you a question from like left field and you go, oh, hang on, I haven't thought about that. Okay, what would that be like? Or what would that look like? And it starts to open up the possibilities so that you can, we're going to use that R word again, you can receive more. So I think having a business coach is not making you less than. I think it actually makes you greater.
It's interesting. It goes to some of the sayings that we've heard out there. They are so true. Don't be the smartest person in the room. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. And at the same time, Jim Rohn, I love the saying, each of us, we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most amount of time with. No judgment on that, but look around. Who are you spending the most amount of time with? Do they have similar values? Are they ahead of you on the journey? Have they attained and achieved where you'd like to be? And if the answer is no, perhaps it's time to reevaluate. Again, no judgment against the people that you're associating with. Can you do better? How can you receive more? And at the same time, while you're receiving, you're also giving back and making a difference for those people. I love what you're saying. Simone, we have just scratched the surface. There are so many different rabbit holes that we can go down. We're starting to bump up against some time. Before we go into wrap up mode, let me ask a question for you, because out of every episode, if a listener could do one thing, maybe it's low action or really low effort and a high reward or a high result that comes out of that, what would be one thing before they go into the next meeting or huddle or into the next call or activity? They can do one thing after hearing us talk. What would that one thing be that you think could really move the dial for them?
Okay, so I would check the judgments that you have currently of yourself or whatever project or whatever you're about to go into, and ask to eliminate the judgments, because the judgments will never create anything greater. They will only create something less. And judgment, if we could just create no judgment, it would be a different world. And then ask a question. So from no judgment, what else is possible here? And just try it.
It's interesting you use the word judgment, because in my own experience and speaking with other world-class thought leaders like yourself, successful people like yourself, I hear the same thing, Jeffrey. As soon as you judge, your power is gone. You've taken
Hmm.
everything out. You're at the lowest possible vibration level. I'm going to drive some of our listeners. And that's as I talk about this in the quantum field or God, the universe. When we're judging, we're losing our authentic self and all the
Yep.
negative things are coming in as opposed to judging, being appreciative, being grateful, which is one of the highest vibrations in terms of the emotions that we can have. So I love that. Don't judge.
I know we're bumping up against time, but let me tell you this really quick story. I had this car here, and the roads here are like so small. Okay. So I
Uh-huh.
hired a Mini Cooper, like a really small car. I signed off on it, got the insurance. I got the basic insurance because I'm like, no, I'm fine. I don't need the other insurance. So I went to go hiking in this place, and I'm like on this app, which is called All Trails, which is amazing usually. And it
Uh-huh.
led me to this road that was like a dead end. It was construction and it was so little and there was just nothing else there. And I had to
Mhm.
get out of this road. So I had to reverse up this person's driveway and then come back. And it was on a mountain and everything. And I was like, okay, you got this, Simone. And then as I was coming back down the driveway, I've hit the back bumper bar, right? So I've damaged the car a little bit. So I'm driving out of there and I started judging myself about why didn't I get the insurance? Why didn't I do this? Oh, you should have driven better. And judgment does that to you. It just
Mhm.
feeds and it goes on and on. And it was about 5 minutes. And I'm driving in these beautiful mountains and I went, what are you doing?
Mhm.
And then I went, okay, and I literally said this to myself out loud, what's so funny about this? You're not laughing about it. And then I started smiling and I
Mhm.
looked at it and I went, and this is where money is good because I went, years ago, I would have stressed and gone, I don't have the money to pay for this or something. And I went, you've got the money, just pay for it. It's fine. You're
Mhm.
safe. You're fine. You didn't go screaming down the mountain. You're good. And I started laughing about it and going, okay, so what's my next adventure? The one thing I did notice too, Jeffrey, was my whole body lightened up. Every
Mhm.
molecule in my body just went, ah, because I wasn't stressing and I wasn't judging myself anymore.
Sure.
I was like, okay, that just happened. What's so funny about this? I'm not laughing about it.
Interesting. And what's terrific about this, you're also sharing how important it is to be aware. What am I feeling right
Mm,
now? Becoming curious about that, going within and really following. Some people call it instinct or intuition or that gut feel and being more aware. I absolutely love that. And thank you for sharing that.
you're
Well,
welcome.
Simone, that said, we're going to go into wrap up mode. I say this for every podcast. It's so true, though. It's a tradition here on the Deep Wealth Podcast. It's a privilege, it's an honor where I ask the guests the same question for all the guests collectively. So let me set this question up for you. It's a really fun one. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. So the fun part, Simone, is tomorrow morning, you look outside your window, not only is the DeLorean car there, curbside, the door is open, you're going to hop on in, and now you get to go back to any point in your life. Simone, as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time that would be, what would you tell your younger self in terms of life lessons or life wisdom? Or, hey, Simone, do this, but don't do that. What would that sound like?
Oh, I love that you asked me that question. And I went through a whole, because I was like, he's going to ask me where I could go in the world. And I was like, ooh, where would I go in the world? What would I tell myself? Oh, man, relax, relax. Don't stress about all the things you stressed about. Just relax and enjoy the moment. I know that might sound really cliche, but I'm 54 now. And as you get older, wow, I wouldn't want to be in my 20s for anything, or even my 30s, I would say. It's just relax. Mm.
So interesting. I hear that as a common thing. People are saying it's all about the journey, Jeffrey. Relax. And what you're saying, you didn't go back and say, well, change this or change that because what perhaps at the time was perceived as negative actually was an opportunity and helped make you who you are today,
Yeah.
enjoying the life that you're enjoying right here and now. So it's terrific advice. And thank you so much for sharing that. And one last question for you for a listener who is interested, they want to learn more. They want to sign up for one of your programs, do a little bit of coaching, take their business or themselves to the next level. Where's the best place online someone can reach you?
SimoneMilasas.com. I've got a great name because I have not found another Simone Milasas. So that's my Instagram, Facebook, website, everything. So yeah.
Terrific. And Deep Wealth Nation, that is all in the show notes. It doesn't get any easier. It's a point and click. Simone, congratulations. It's official. It's a wrap. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much.
Oh, Jeffrey, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are a wonderful being. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh, thank you. So there you have it, Deep Wealth Nation. What did you think? So with all that said, and as we wrap it up, I have another question for you. Actually, it's more of a personal favor. Did you find this episode helpful? Have you found other episodes of the Deep Wealth Podcast empowering and a game changer for your journey? And if you said yes, and I really hope you did, I have a small but really meaningful way that you can actually help us out and keep these episodes coming to you. Are you ready for it? The dramatic pause. I'll just wait a moment. Drum roll, please. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast channel. When you subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast, you're saving yourself time. Every episode automatically comes to you. And I want you to know that we meticulously craft every one of our episodes to have impactful strategies, stories, expert insights that are designed to help you grow your profits, increase the value of your business, and yes, even optimize your post-exit life and your life right now, whatever you want that to look like. And every time you subscribe and a fellow entrepreneur subscribe, it's a testament to how together, yes, we are changing the social fabric of society. One business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. So don't let the momentum stop here. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast channel. You'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear from the top industry leaders, the innovators, the disruptors that are really changing and shaping the business world. And maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're taking a well-deserved break that we spoke all about on this episode. The Deep Wealth Podcast, it's your reliable source for the next big idea that could literally revolutionize your business. So once again, please hit that subscribe button, stay connected, inspired, and ahead of the curve. And again, your next big breakthrough moment, it might just be one episode away. Maybe it was even this episode. So all that said, thank you so much for listening. And remember, your wealth isn't just about the money in the bank. It's about the depth of your journey and the impact that you're creating. So let's continue this journey together. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. God bless.